At some point, we will all be planning for our retirement. Experts say that sooner is better than later, as surveys show that 46% of Americans say they have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. But for those looking to buck that trend, Ehmke with the University of Wyoming Cooperative Extension Office says the key is planning and discipline.
If you're thinking about retirement, one of the things that we in Cooperative Extension spend a lot of time talking about is assessing your resources. You've got to start from a baseline. You've got to start from someplace. And lots of people have kind of a vague sense about what that is. We try to refine that so that they can be more specific about, here's the actual resources that I'm dealing with. And then the other part is looking forward into the future and saying, what do I really want to do? Which is essentially setting some goals for themselves. When we start talking about what our resources are, building that baseline or building a history, building a history means thinking about what are my habits. So that's where we start with. Of course, we can fill out a balance sheet. Here are all of my assets, here's all of my liabilities, and that's really helpful. So we build a balance sheet, essentially. But then the other part of building a baseline is, how do I make my decisions? Answering that question. And we answer that question by tracking where we've spent our money over the course of 3 or so months. We ask people to keep a log and track every expense that they've got, cash, credit card, whatever it might have been. But typically, if you've got 3 months of data, you can take a look back and say, you know, I'm spending a lot more money in certain areas than I'd really like to spend. And so that exercise helps build that information about what our habits are, because habits are extremely powerful. If we didn't have habits, we would have to think about every single little decision. And if we just go into a store and out of habit buy a cup of coffee, over a lifetime, that's probably $30,000 decision or more. $3 a day, over years and years, it really adds up.
After you figure out what you have, it's important then to look at what your goals will be for when you retire.
After you've built a baseline about where you're spending your money, you collected data on how you're spending it, where you are spending it, then you need to match that with where you would really like to spend it. You need to think out to the future and say, in 15 or 20 years, here is where I would like to be with my personal balance sheet. I want to increase the level of assets that I've got on there. I want to decrease the level of debt, and then we need to match it. And we do that by refining a budget. So we're thinking out to next month, next few months, and saying, you know, for entertainment, for travel, for food, for medical expenses, whatever it might be, I want to trim or add it in wherever is important to me. And that involves setting those priorities, which means thinking about what you really want to accomplish in life. If you want to accomplish another degree at an academic institution, well then there's going to be some money associated with that you need to put into the budget. So the budget is the way to match your habits, your spending history, with where you want to go in the future.
One size does not fit all. That's why Ehmke says it's important to look at when you want to retire and how much that's going to cost you ultimately.
In retirement, your expenses could be fairly high for those first few years of retirement, and probably they could even be higher than when you were working. The longer your retirement lasts, probably the lower expenses you'll have, they'll taper off. But then there's going to be healthcare expenses toward the end of that, and they really could be fantastically expensive. So you need to think about scenarios. What's going to happen? Good health, bad health, work, not work, investments that don't work out, whatever it may be. Maybe you take on further responsibilities like caring for a family member. Long term, the question that people are going to want to answer for themselves is, my money going to last? Social Security, if you paid into Social Security because you worked, then that's great, but it's probably not going to pay for all of your expenses. It was never intended, Social Security was never intended to pay for everyone's expenses. But a fair number of people out there actually live on $700 or so a month. When you're thinking about retirement, you got to ask yourself the question, is the money going to last? Assuming that you've got Social Security, maybe a defined benefit plan or some other sort of retirement package. So you need to do some longer term budgeting. Now, there's lots of online calculators that will help you sort out, do I have enough money for my lifetime? And here you've got to ask yourself some of those tough questions. Number one is, how long do I want to be in retirement? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? There's people who want to retire at 45, and if they live till their mid-90s, then that's a whale of a lot of money. Most people, I think 4 in 10, haven't gone to the effort of estimating how long their money is going to last. And of course, people need to ask themselves that question: how long do I want to be in retirement? If it's 25 years, then you must have 25 years worth of money when you retire, unless you really want to do some work or other ways of bringing in money when you're in retirement.
If you want to know how to plan for your retirement or how far your retirement income will last you, visit aarp.org/retirement calculator.